YouTube, Awesome Writer here. Welcome to my review for King-ohger episode 7. So this episode was a very solid episode. It felt like the most traditional Sentai episode we've gotten out of the series so far. You know, meaning that I've talked about in the past that it's structured very differently, very more serialized, good talking, Dawson, but very much more serialized, you know, kind of like Dawn Brothers, very different feeling than your average Sentai. But this is the closest to a traditional feeling Sentai episode we've gotten, as there was a little bit more focus on the monster of the week. Not that he was the main focus, but had a little bit more presence in terms of the monster was given a lot more personality and purpose, and, you know, everything else kind of revolved around dealing with that threat, and like all the other details that were filled in revolved around that. Speaking of the monster of the week, I can't decide whether I like this or hate it. It's like really fun and quirky, and I'm like, this is kind of stupid, I kind of hate it, but it's also kind of really creative and it stands out, and it kind of plays into this whole soldier ant thing, which is kind of cool. But we got that monster of the week launching an attack this week, like I said, feeling very traditional Sentai, revolving around the monster's plot to get the shoe gods and all that stuff. Gira is on the run now, yet again, because Rackley's has made him a fugitive again, even announcing, like, you know, look at all Gira's done, you saw it, so he's a fugitive again. And of course, we have our resident peasant guy, who's the stereotypical peasant leader, I guess, still flying off the handle. I hate this dude. Like, his outfit annoys me. What are you always sweeping? And he's such a overacting Togu cartoon. Ugh. And like, I just hate how quickly he turns. I know they need like somebody to represent that. But at least his main friends have not turned on him, as they're hiding him out. As I mentioned last week, as you could tell from the scene, everyone else was like, oh, you betrayed us. But they're like, oh, Gira. So he's on the hide. That's a weird way of saying that. But one thing I'd appreciate is I was actually surprised at the restraint Gira showed. Like, obviously near the end, he shows up to help, but I honestly thought he was going to fly off the handle and start shrieking and making annoying facial expressions and not listen. And I'm actually very impressed that he listened and kept it balanced. He was much more tolerable in this episode. But a lot of the primary character focus is for Blue and Yellow, as they are working together to figure out how to fix the poisoning that the guys the Mecha endured from Scorpion. And it's kind of this cool clash of cultures approach thing where Yellow's looking at it medically and Blue's like, dude, these are can openers. This is a mechanical issue. So it's about the philosophical differences of how the kingdoms approach things, as well as the Rangers themselves. I thought it was a nice little beat that gave this kind of parallel later to them working together. And when Yanma comes to Gira, he's like, you know, even when we're not getting along, we still look out for each other. And when he does that, it shows the groups working together despite not fully agreeing. So there was some nice stuff there. And also some nice stuff and background on Yellow, opening up another mystery, which was really nice because I always have fears in this series about the characters turning into cartoons because they're all dressed like cartoons and they all have these sort of personalities that lend towards bits. But thus far, for the most part, they've been, you know, impressing me and showing that they can actually act like normal human beings when the situation calls for it, especially Yellow, who was one of the characters I worried about the most in regards to her just being a bit. And every time she's had focus on her, she's actually felt like a real human being. And this is no exception, and she did a good performance of actually feeling like a character, talking about her background, which is why she's wary of Scorpion, because her parents were poisoned. Now, I want to preface talking about this scene, as I am not nitpicking it, I'm just riffing on it based on some funny observations, as it shows this previous disaster the kingdom encountered, where we meet her parents, shows that she totally stole all her fashion from her mom, shows her dad, who they show his face, I feel like I'm supposed to recognize him from something, but I have no idea. Maybe I'm not. But they show this disaster when they got assassinated by this hooded figure. And the funny thing about this scene is, this guy's like in a classic black cloak to like hide himself, but within the context of this kingdom, with the way the kingdom looks, and everyone else dressed in bright white, this dude sticks out like a sore thumb, and I find that to be hilarious. And he just straight up walks right up to him in broad daylight. Now I know everyone else is distracted, but it's just such a clumsy assassination. And also, like, he had like so much time to inject them when like Yellow spotted them. Like, she's watching him do this. Like, she could have yelled out. Bottom line is, she's responsible for her parents' death and should feel guilty the rest of her life. I'm just kidding, but in all seriousness though, like, I felt like she saw the attack coming way early. But that sets up a mystery of who he is. They kind of show this bracelet thing when he lifts his hands up. Maybe that's supposed to be a clue. He's got this funky looking mecha. But that's a real cool, like, fun mystery to add to it. I'm not sure how it connects to everything else going on, but I liked it to add a little bit of development for Yellow and another ongoing storyline I'm interested in. Also, it was funny when they first showed Yellow, like, she's basically dressed exactly like her primary outfit. And I'm like, oh my god, how did they make her look so young? And I'm like, oh, that's just a different actress. Yeah, but there was some nice stuff going on there. And also, a lot of this episode lends into what I talked about last week of how we have different allegiances going on, where I talked about how Blue and Yellow would obviously be much more likely to work with Gira, which they showed this week. And I like that they were the ones that came to him, and it wasn't just him shrieking about how they're a team this whole time. It showed that they actually did develop a connection, and they're willing to come to him and work together. But also showcases that Black and Purple are still on Rackley's side, but obviously for very different reasons. Blue and Yellow actually developed a bond and respect for Gira, whereas Black's only working with Rackley's because it benefits his kingdom, and while, all the Rangers' motivation is to benefit their kingdom, he's obviously only thinking about that. I'm going to assume it changes throughout the year, or, as the series goes on, but for now that's what it is. He hasn't done a whole lot in recent episodes. I feel like every time I see him, I'm just hating on him because I hated his personality so much, and I'm waiting for him to annoy me, or prove me wrong. Purple, meanwhile, I feel is just on Rackley's side again because she's about holding up the law, and he's literally like the official leader, so it makes sense. Although at the very end, she's like okay with holding kids up like at sword point. That seems like, okay, I get like you're about justice and you're following Rackley's because he's the leader. But you're okay with like holding kids hostage, Purple? We gotta talk. That's the cliffhanger, by the way, because at the end of the episode, we're just gonna skip ahead and talk about it now because I'm already here, is that, after Gira goes back, they're like, we were going to issue a trial by combat. I feel like they could have done that without holding up the kids, but I don't know. Like, again, Purple's allegiance makes sense, but her being okay with that. I want to know more about what she thinks of all this, because I feel like she probably doesn't like Rackley's because she slapped him. Anyway, that was just an interesting place to leave it off on. But nice stuff furthering the bonds between these three characters. Almost feeling like a core team of three red, yellow, blue classic 3-team Sentai stuff. And they even like let him go and be like, oh no, he got away type of stuff. And this episode is also the full featured rest of the debut of the Scorpion Mecha, showing off its combined form where it becomes a claw, which is kind of cool looking. I know that they make a big deal about it's got god power or whatever and it's more powerful, but it's just funny that it's like, okay, so it just makes a claw? Like, you got a sword right there. Why aren't you dual wielding? I mean, it's like, why did Oz need the metal caliber? He's got Wolverine claws. I'm still not over it. But still, it was a cool continuation of the debut. They build up this thing, too, where they're like, oh, Scorpion was attacking because he was mad at what happened to Kabuto. And they insinuate a relationship between them? They're doing really weird, mecha stuff this year. I don't know. I like that they have personality. This stuff is kind of weird. But, I don't know. That was just a weird left field thing. But it was overall a solid episode. I enjoyed it. It wasn't the best of the series. Probably a solid 3 out of 5. Like I said, the most traditional feeling episode in terms of structure, but not without any development or anything like that. It wasn't full-on filler. And a nice build-up to next week, which is our official debut for Silver and the Trial by Combat. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. I think they've done a nice build-up with that. I think it'll be a good episode. Be cool to see the suit in action. I almost wish they would have let this be a surprise. Or not a surprise, something we would all see coming from the leaks. But, don't show it in the show in the previews. Just let it happen next week as a surprise. And then once it happens, a surprise. A surprise to the people that don't follow the scans and the leaks. But then have that be a surprise, and then right after that announce, hey, we're doing a YouTube spinoff. But anyways, guys, I want to know your thoughts on the episode like usual. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.